Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Quran Lessons for the Infidel. And today we're doing the Surahs 71 and 14, and they reference Noah and Abraham. And I wrote a blog post about that. The link is below. And I probably should have really bashed both of these characters uh, harder than I did. It's surprising to me how many religions and religious beliefs are based on these two ridiculous characters. Anyway, to my team, how do you guys want to begin? Say hello.
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 Hi.
We seem to be a bit thin. I'm guessing because of daylight savings time. When I scheduled this, I forgot that the U.S. moves its time, or that North America moves its time at a different time than Europe did. So, my apologies for not realizing that.
Yep. And that creates a problem for transatlantic flights because now they're all short on fuel.
Okay, who wants to start off?
I'll start the reasons for revelation. Is it Noah we're starting with?
Yeah, it's Noah.
Okay, I'll just say what the reasons, according to the majority of Muslim scholars, the reasons for revealing Surah Noah, according to the majority of Muslim scholars, there were four reasons. First, to support Muhammad in his vocation or mission. Two, to teach us to persist and to be patient when pursuing a good cause. Here is Noah preaching for 950 years continuously. Third, for Allah to tell us that his revenge of the infidels will come even after hundreds of years. Fourth, to show us that severe punishment is warranted for the non-believers.
Yeah, so he's telling us we won't get away with it. Yeah. Even
This
if
guy
we
is a
gave-
very this guy is a very vengeful god,
Yes, he is a very vengeful God, and he says so.
What amazes me is how believers don't recognize that you're threatening disbelief. So you're not bringing any evidence. You're just bringing assumed conclusions, and you just tell me to believe you because you said so. And if we believe you offer these impossible promises that you'll never have to pay because all will be dead by then. And so there's nothing you have to give up. There's no expiration date. There's no way to verify any of this at all. And then for those people that aren't moved by the impossible promise, well, then you make the threat of a fate worse than death. And all of this is because you're trying to sell an impossible story that cannot be true because these conditions wouldn't exist if it were.
Even worse than that, he basically speaks things into being. He spoke you and me and everyone on this show into not believing. He willed it this way, and then he goes out of his way to threaten us by eternal hellfire and punishment.
This
for
is the
not
part
going
where
against his will.
yeah, so this is the part where it really gets me is that he makes us not believe and then punishes us for making us not believe in the first place.
Yeah.
It's his fault. He should punish himself for making us not believe.
Yeah.
Well, and we're still talking about God like as if he exists, right?
Yeah.
And the reality, of course, is
Yeah, well, that's the main premise. Like, if he is even in existence, he's a doof. He shouldn't be leading anything.
The point I want to make, and that's a question to Muslims, that Allah stated or waited 950 years to punish Noah's people. He knew already they are not going to believe. So what is the point sending Noah? What is the point waiting 950 years to exact what you already knew? So that's a question must be addressed to Muslims.
well, why does God supposedly do things to test your faith?
Yeah, but he knew what is my faith is. He already knew that I'm not going to be good. So what's the point of testing my faith?
They say that the point of that is by doing that you have no excuse or something.
Yeah, but he knew that already. That's the question. Nevertheless,
Yes.
a question for the Muslim.
Yeah, and then when because we're talking about Noah today, let's remember that in the biblical version, which is arguably the original, I know that the Muslims want to say that they have the more direct track because every religion says they're going back to the original way, which is always completely different from what the original way was. But when we're talking about Noah, remember that God regretted having created people. So the guy who knows everything, the guy who sees all possible futures and knows how everything is going to play out, the guy who prophesies, now says that he regrets something that he did and that he has to wipe the slate clean and start over again.
What happened to his omniscience? Forgot his glasses. Forgot his glasses at home, or what?
That was my question. Yeah.
What I find funny though is he regrets creating humans, so he kills off all the animals. Like, that's sadistic in another level.
So God could blink things into existence. He can speak things into existence, but he can't change a person's mind when that's the problem. So if he gets upset with a handful of desert tribes in one particular area of the world, then he has to kill everybody everywhere, every kitten, every doe on a different continent, because some Arab didn't believe his the stories of his prophets.
Yeah, a hard lesson for everyone.
And at that point, might all that be it, right? He might not be able to control your mind. He might not be able to do anything. Cannot he just drown those who won't believe and leave the rest of us alone?
Why drown? If he can, will us into this,
he can do whatever he wants. So this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to drown everyone, innocent, old, young, child, women, men, everything, including their animals, including the fish, because fish don't like brackish water. For what? Like, can't you be? Why don't you just wipe off the humans?
Okay, so what was the problem?
And leave the animals alone.
The reason that Noah had to kill every hedgehog in Texas or wherever, the reason that God had to kill every animal everywhere and wipe out all of everything that he'd created was because somebody in the Middle East, some band of people, were talking to the wrong golden statue. And so God doesn't know how to correct their misbehavior. God can't appear out of nowhere and say, hey, you know what? You're talking to a piece of metal. I'm real. Talk to me. God can't do that. Why can't God do that? God can blink everybody to sleep. He can selectively remove people, but he opts not to do that. He opts to go through this ridiculous thing that is so impossible that it requires hundreds of compiled miracles. So I have all these people making excuses for how maybe Noah's Ark was full of embryos in cryostasis. I mean, the fuck, man, was supposed to have been 5,000 years ago when they didn't have this kind of technology and they didn't know about dinosaurs. And so the people who say that they don't believe in evolution now make up the excuse that you had only two of every kind, and that those things got off the boat and then immediately procreated all these different kinds. So you have the super duper hyper caffeinated electro mega evolution coming out of the boat. Much faster than evolution could really happen. But they don't believe in evolution, but they need evolution in order to save this fable.
Yeah.
Right.
So my first note here is these two surahs, for the record, have no abrogated verses. As asinine as they are, Allah did not change his mind about them. None of them. Let's see if that makes things any better.
Just going back to your question, why God has to drown every one of those people. Noah has given him the answer, because their offspring and anything they bring, irrespective, they're going to be either as bad or worse.
Except Noah doesn't know. Except Noah as a human cannot know.
Understand. But he's seen them for 950 years. I'm putting
so Noah fooled Allah into drowning everyone.
Right.
By telling him something he could not know.
Yeah, Boogie, let him get out the point.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say, the Muslims hat on for after 950 years, Noah has a good experience with these people that their offspring will be worse. So God agreed to that, understood that. So this dialogue between God and Noah was understood to both of them, irrespective whether it makes sense to you or me or not.
Yay. So my first note about 71 is, Aaron, please read your notes, the first one.
My notes on that first surah.
The first note, the beginning one, the one
okay,
that's before.
Where are we starting?
The very beginning, right under the title.
Okay. It is amusing to me that a Muslim apologist once told me on live video that the Quran doesn't talk about Noah's flood. Not only has that come up at least a dozen times by this point, but this surah even bears his name. And curiously, the 71st surah is in order of revelation, is also the 71st position in the printed chronological order too, and that only happens one other time in the entirety of the Quran, which I think is Surah 82.
To the point, apologists and Dawah people generally are allowed to lie to infidels and non-believers otherwise to get them to accept Islam. This is a well-known practice. It's a well-known doctrine. The explanation is it doesn't matter how you get into the house, back door, front door, window, chimney, it doesn't matter as long as you're in the house and they know there is no way out.
So the ends justify the means.
Yes, exactly.
I'd like to add one more thing here. Whatever they told you, they're talking about Noah's story in the Quran. Even it has a few things that it's different from the Bible story. That's what they meant. It's more accurate, has more detail, and the Quran being the third book came to conclude and include everything. I think that's what they meant to start with.
I have debated apologists and, well, not so apologists about it several times. And when I push them hard enough, they can see that it's not a global flood that the Quran is talking about, which is utter bullshit, because obviously if it wasn't global, then why is only Noah's family are the only survivors of that flood? It makes no sense, and the Quran elucidates that several times over. So I know they're not telling the truth, and this is it. The Quran gets this wrong. Obviously, it didn't happen, so whatever. Anyways, if no other notes are there, 7105 is my next note.
7105. All right, so jumping to that. Where's 05? I should have had this lined up.
Nothing specific about 7105. If you want to read it, fine.
All right. He said, "My Lord, I have called my people night and day, but the more I call them, the further they run away."
Yes. My note was, it got nothing to do with the translation. In fact, the translation ruins it. To the end of this surah, the verses rhyme. This will be lost in any translation. Verses between 5 and 14 rhyme with the letters R and A, ra, ra, ra.
Correct.
And after that, all the way to the end, it's an extended A sound for every word. So the verbiage in this surah is constructed to rhyme. Some of the verbs, some of the words used here have better meaning conveying words otherwise, but the rhyming version is in the surah and not the better meaning conveying words. So this is like, what do you call it? This is made to rhyme on purpose for the sake of rhyming. Okay, if you see something like that, it's poor poetry. Somebody's trying to make the poetry rhyme and sometimes use it not very accurate words just because they rhyme.
Agreed.
So this is the point I'm making. It's a general point about the surah because it's the second surah which almost completely rhymes again. Only the first 5 verses don't.
Now, why would you have part of it rhyme?
This is almost all of it does. Like from 5 down, the whole surah rhymes.
Correct.
Right? Like from 5 onwards, قال ربي إني دعوت قومي ليلا ونهارا. Right? فلم يزدهم دعائي إلا فرارا. Right? This is like, right, this is rhyming. This is like upcoming poetry on your ass.
Right? Midrara, Nahara, Waqara. Okay, now let me answer Aaron why it has to rhyme. The Arab at one time having a mastered poem and a real good style of Arabic, it was a good thing to make your poem, your speech, your rhyme. It has more effect. So Muhammad used that as a tool to convince them even my Quran is unique. It rhymes as well. That's why it came to rhyme.
You know, I this is the first time I'm noticing this. I have read these verses so many times, and this is the first time I'm noticing this. This is a revelation. Hallelujah.
We have a new believer.
Oh, by the way, it does not only rhyme, it repeats itself. If we take a very simple word, I'm just giving you an example. يخرجكم إخراجا. He bring you out to bring you out. Okay, so it not only rhyme. So for the
It brings you out, a bringing out. It doesn't need to repeat that. It's already bring you out. So you're done. Put a full stop and be done with it, right?
Those who speak Arabic, they do realize they can sense that. Those who do not, they don't, because the English does not rhyme. The English does not bring that forward for you to see.
No, the translation doesn't do that. I know very few translations to other languages that end up rhyming or even better than the original.
Yeah.
I know a couple of translators that can do that.
Sure.
But obviously the people who translated the Quran didn't.
Yeah.
So whatever. 71:16 is my note, unless somebody wants to do something before that.
Yeah, I'm getting an echo. I don't know if anybody else is picking that up. All right, so 16, placed the moon as a light in them and the sun as a lamp.
Right.
Yes, so it does use the two words, and
yeah, every translation I've seen uses those two words.
Yes, but
what is the difference? What's the difference between a light and a lamp?
Well, just let me remind you of my previous note about having this thing rhyme.
Okay.
And the lamp is at the end of this verse, just for the sake of rhyming. Okay. A siraj is a lamp, is a freaking oil lamp, okay? It is not used today as a lamp anymore, although it is used as a name. So people might be called siraj. Hey, Mr. Lamp, right? He's as bright as a siraj because the siraj is a source of light. But when you have وَجَعَلَ الْقَمَرَ فِيهِنَّ نُورًا وَجَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ سِرَاجًا, right? Because this is what he says. The moon is a source of light. It does not elucidate whether it is reflected or its own. It's just among them, the moon is a light. Well, obviously among the stars, the moon is a bigger ass light because it's like big, right? And the sun is a siraj, which is a lamp, but that does not designate any of them as a source, right? So it's deficient in terms of, if you are looking for definition, it's deficient. And you need to have this in the back of your mind as you read through the verses of this surah, that rhyme is the thing here and not precision.
Yeah, one more point to add here, supported by Surah 25, verses 61. I'll come back to this. It says, blessed is he who placed a constellation in the sky and placed in it a lamp and a luminous moon. Now, the most apologists try to cover up that it does reflect light, it does not emit light. But saying Nur, the word Nur, it does emit light. So that's they have a problem, because obviously Muhammad or his friends or his colleagues did not know that. They thought that the moon does emit light. It is the source of light. This is another point.
If you see a light, you can say, I've seen a Nur. Yeah, right? It would be perfectly normal for an Arabic-speaking person to see a Nur, right? If they can say, I've seen a Siraj, they have seen a Nur, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to...
Unless the Siraj was off, in which case you don't see the Nur, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, nice verse. I would not read too much into it. It had to rhyme, so it rhymes. Good luck with that.
One thing I like about reading the Quran with multiple translations is that you can see how dishonest the translators are being. For example, the translation by Abdul Halim, it says the moon is a light, and the translation by Sahih International puts reflected light in a bracket. Then the translation by Mustafa Khattab removes the brackets and it's just reflected light. Like, you can see how they're changing the words.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not only changing the word, it's how confused they are. That shows you the Quran is not clear. I mean, let's give them the credit. They try very hard to translate as clear as they can, but they come up with different versions. The reason is the Quran is not clear. Absolutely. More than they are deceiving us.
But the Quran said it's clear. Come on. So if you are conflicted between the meaning of what this light thing here is, read the verse before it, and then it becomes a little bit more clear. Haven't you seen how Allah created the 7 heavens in layers, like layer cake, right?
Yeah.
And made the moon in them a light, and made the sun a lamp, which is a light again. And then we go down one more verse, and Allah lets plants spring out for you. Okay, this is the wrongly translated one, which you hicked up on. Nothing to do with that. He is using the springing of the plants in spring out of the ground as an example to verse 18, that he is going to resurrect you and bring you out of the ground again, as you correctly said, that it's a reconstructive resurrection. It's not a spiritual one.
No, but if you take this on its face value, where it says Allah alone caused you to grow from the earth like a plant, if you take that in a literal sense, that makes absolutely no freaking sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And they can't wave from that translation. That's what it literally says in Arabic. No, it doesn't. So it's metaphor. It's metaphor, and they should have said that.
But they didn't.
Yeah, we have a comment from somebody in the chat. My wife picked it up. Says, "Left Islam for Good" points out that the fact that later in this chapter the Quran says Noah asked Allah to destroy all the disbelievers on earth proves that the Quran is about a global flood and not a local flood. And then later he comments also that that debunks apologists who claims that the Quran only talks about a local flood instead of a global flood.
Yeah. I agree. There are several places that it becomes obvious that we're talking about a global flood. It's not a global flood. Quran is wrong in several different places, and the more you try, the more you fail. It speaks of a global flood, and it fails to be a global flood.
Right. May I just elaborate on verse 18? There's a point here where some apologists, I've heard it a while ago, they think we are going to be gathered in Judgment Day on earth, and that's their reference. Okay, so the Judgment Day will be on this earth. ثُمَّ نُعِيدُكُمْ فِيهَا وَنُخْرِجُكُمْ إِخْرَاجًا. That is, and he will bring you out again, and they're referring to this verse that the judgment day or the resurrection day will be on earth.
Okay, we shall move to Mars and we will be safe.
Absolutely.
Where is that echo coming from?
I have no idea. I heard it myself.
It's not me, I hope.
No, I am on a phone.
If everybody has earbuds on, that should minimize the echo.
I'm on my headphone. I just heard my own voice.
I'm not sure if it's coming from me. Hi, sorry. I haven't found a good time to say hello.
Hi.
Hey, Carl, welcome.
Anyways, here is a pro tip. If you want to be safe from the end days, go to Mars.
Yeah, or the moon or somewhere, yeah.
Or the moon, or anywhere else, because apparently it's only going to happen here.
Yeah, so to what Talal said, I mean, I got the same impression. So we're talking about the physical earth. We're talking about physical people. They still have to eat. You know, they're still procreating. They're still having sex for whatever reason, right? We still have to have drinks. We still have to relax. And then we're told that we still have work to do. A Dallas preacher last week, I think it was, made the announcement that in heaven we'll all have good jobs and that we won't get tired and that we'll enjoy our work and that we can work infinitely.
That's the
What a thing
worst
to look
things
forward
that-
to. A job you can't
Capitalism
quit.
is even
Yeah.
good capitalism is even when heaven is in debt.
Would
I
I
love
get
my
a
job
raise?
right now.
Can I get a raise?
Yeah.
And when do I go on holiday?
Wait, if you basically own like fucking $1 million gardens full of trees and fruit, why the fuck do I need to work? I have all the food. And
Aaron, I wonder how they work out the overtime, by the way, and the working hours. And
When do you retire? How about retiring at the end?
well,
Yeah, I heard
no,
some
you don't
commenters
retire
say
at the
that,
end.
that what he was describing, what Pastor Robert Jeffress was describing, First Baptist Church, downtown Dallas, was that in heaven we would all be slaves.
Right. Slave to God or to whom? Or
To
our
God. Yeah,
wives?
we don't just praise him. We
Uh-huh.
work continuously forever. So you know the old phrase, work, and then you die?
Yeah.
Well,
Isn't that
and then you
Taylor
work
Swift
some
song?
more.
But I have a question to these pastors. What will be the function of God at that time? I mean, now he's looking after us. He's managing the earth, managing people. He's watching everybody. But when all that over, what will be exactly God's function then?
Well, he would be omnipotently not doing anything.
Well,
He's
that's
omnipotently not doing anything right now, so
That's not that
Well,
wouldn't
now,
be
but
his
he will be
characteristic.
even
Okay, just
more
a question.
not doing
I'd like to get an answer. Will he be creating another people, another universe to look after, or will he get fed
Now
up?
that's interesting too, because in heaven, according to the Quran, God creates women. He creates virgins for our pleasure. They don't have free will. They didn't exist on earth. These are not people who died. And the children who serve us, the perpetual children,
Yeah.
the little boys who never grow up, who are always bringing our drinks. But they're not real drinks, are they? Because alcohol is forbidden in heaven. So you have these children bringing us Coca-Cola forever, or apple juice, or whatever the hell non-alcoholic beverage you want. These kids didn't live and die. I mean, they were created in heaven too, except that the heaven that we're talking about is still a physical heaven. It's still a hotel in the sky.
Yeah.
It's not another dimension. It's not supernatural. It's physical. And that's why we see shooting stars, is because there are physical angels shooting physical missiles at physical demons.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be no point in throwing things around because,
Yeah.
you're not going to hit anything.
Yeah.
What
May
I
I?
noticed was
Sorry.
the star throwing thing. Apparently, it started after Muhammad was born, when the sky was locked or something. So how did they explain shooting stars before Muhammad?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't
I don't
have
know.
to prove that they existed, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe they weren't shooting stars before Muhammad. What do you know?
Were you
You
there?
Were you there?
Yeah. May I just
Did you?
add? I'd like to add one point about the imagination of heaven the one who described it really well, Abu al-Ala al-Ma'arri, one of the atheists in the 9th century. And he wrote a book called The Message of the Mercy or the Forgiveness, Risalatul Ghufran. I don't know if he translated it to English, but he went into such extreme to explain what is going to happen in heaven. He predicted, and I think that we'll try one time to bring some extract from what he says about what will happen. I mean, the way he imagined it, being so ridiculous about it, is extremely, extremely fantastic. I just want to point this out.
Can I track back a little bit to the rhyming part? I think it helps that it rhymes so that you can by heart it easier, because it's always easy to remember lyrics to songs or whatever because it rhymes, right? So it has that similar structure where it's easier to memorize the thing.
Yeah, but then why is the rest of it not rhyming? Is it supposed to be forgotten or less remembered?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean,
I
100% grant you the point. Making something rhyme will make it stick in the head a lot longer.
Yeah.
I give you that without any reservation, but 90% of the Quran doesn't rhyme at all.
I guess you can forget those parts then.
No, I mean, it's okay. Well, I guess so, yeah, which is great because then you can forget a lot of bad parts. I mean, the more you forget of the Quran, the better off you are.
But we need to remember the Quran motive or objective, not to rhyme, is to guide, is to give you truth, is to give you thing that's clear. So to start with, it shouldn't rhyme, none whatsoever. So
this is a very
So
this is a very bad guidance.
Yeah, and why is this rhyming? Like it literally, my problem was I didn't have a lot of things to comment on because this surah is basically an empty soup. There is nothing in it, right? It's literally, you said 30 odd something verses and you made no point at all except rhyming loudly.
Yeah, for the guy that for left Islam for good and put that comment in the chat, I'm really surprised that I missed that point. That where I'm looking at it now, where Noah actually did specify that it was disbelievers on the earth. Do not leave any of the disbelievers on the earth. And so, yeah, that makes very clear. And I didn't make any note of that, whereas of course I should, because I have had apologists get in my face and tell me that the Quran never says that it's a global flood when it does over and over again.
It does. There is it makes no mistake about it. Everyone dies.
Yeah.
And if everyone dies, everyone lived everywhere, hence global flood. Otherwise, some people don't get wet. And if they don't get wet, then it wasn't global. Anyways, 19.
Be thou enchanted.
You can read your notes on that, Aaron.
All right, let me grab that screen. Okay, you said 19. All right, and how has he spread the earth out for you to walk along its spacious paths?
He uses the word carpet. He literally uses the word carpet. He made the earth a carpet for you.
Right.
That's a word for word translation, right?
Yeah, but it rhymes, so it's poetry.
It rhymes. I grant you that point. This one also rhymes. But again, وَاللَّهُ جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ بُسَاطًا. So where are you going to run from this one? Where are you going to run from it?
We got a super chat. G Skeptic, £5. Thank you very much for that. It says, afternoon, team. How come Muhammad didn't notice the moon isn't a light? Sometimes it's in full view during the day with no light coming.
Well, sometimes Muhammad gets angry and then he breaks the moon in half, but that's another story.
Not when he gets angry. When he want to prove the power of God is with him, not when he gets angry, by the way.
See, I broke the moon in half, and we're looking at it's still there's still only one moon there.
Just imagine the Chinese writing down in their scrolls, Friday the 14th, the moon was split in half for 15 minutes. We have no idea where that happened. And they just
Now that
put
would
the
have been
scroll
strong
away.
evidence.
Right,
That
and
would
they
have been
put the
strong
scroll
evidence.
away, and we find it 2,000 years later, right? And we read this and it's going, oh, so Muhammad did split the moon in half, and the freaking Chinese, because they were observing the heavens for completely different reasons, saw it happen. Because guess what? They had people who had no other job but to look at the heavens all day and all night.
But yeah,
So if Muhammad did anything funky to the moon, they would have seen it, because those people were out there looking for it.
Well, I don't think they were looking for Muhammad splitting the moon. But,
No,
you know,
but they would have noticed that something weird is happening to the moon, and now it's in two pieces.
Right.
apologies say that everyone was sleeping during that time all across the world.
Yeah,
really?
time zones, anybody?
You can find that online.
Yeah, speaking of time zones, when I would like to do this, the next episode of the show would be 2 weeks from today, would be on the 28th. And that, I understand, is the day when the UK moves their time. I assume Europe is going to do that as a concerted effort. Okay. So it will still, as always, be at 5 p.m. UTC, which will again be noon Eastern time in the U.S.
So it'll be 4 o'clock at my time.
Well, an hour. What am I saying? I don't know where in the world you are.
UK,
If you're in the
London.
U.S., it was an hour later today.
Okay. Yeah. It'll be 6 o'clock my time. Okay.
Got it.
Okay, 23 is my next note, and please read your notes, Aaron.
All right, let me pull it up. 23. I just had to include that note in an edit. Let's see, 23. Where is it? There we go. All right, but those who believed and did good deeds will be brought into gardens graced with flowing streams, there to remain. With their Lord's permission, their greeting there is peace.
No, I was thinking of your note about Moses.
Oh, my note. Okay.
Your
remember
note that these people that were with Yahus and Yaruch and Nasr.
Yeah, remember the biblical origin of the temptation of Eve. The character in the serpent in the garden is popularly, albeit erroneously, interpreted to be the devil in disguise. And that serpent, being commonly conflated / confused with Satan, is the only character in that story who told the truth, while God was the one making false promises.
Yeah, what's with Moses' what was Idris's disciples?
I don't follow.
Idris?
Hello?
Yes.
I'm not following what Bogey was just saying. All right, move on. What's next?
I'm back. Okay, something happened to my sound. No, that's my last note for this surah.
Okay, so moving on to Ibrahim, the guy who started it all.
Aaron, before we move, I've got 1.5 minutes to read what I wrote about Noah's story in
Sure.
Regarding the myth of the Quran. Can I do that, please?
Sure, please.
Okay. Now, that's the comment I made to refute the myth of Noah in the Quran. It was a global flood So how did the 13,656 different kinds of mammals and reptiles, including 3,000 kinds of snakes, had survived unless Noah managed to take them all on board? That is a total of 27,312 mammals and reptiles to cover a pair of each. Now, second, how did Noah manage the wild and huge animals such as lions, tigers, giraffes, and elephants? Third, what about the 700,000 different kinds of insects? And how did Noah differentiate between their sex? Fourth, how could Allah be wise or just when he decided to wipe out all the people who lived with Noah because they disagreed with him? Why did Allah retaliate so viciously? Fourth, this event, as a conclusion, this event has been determined as geologically, mathematically, and biologically impossible. There is no geological evidence of a worldwide flood. The species which currently inhabit the Earth could not have evolved with a few thousand years from a pair of kinds, nor could a pair of each species fit on Noah's Ark that could not even sail. Thank you.
Yeah, I've heard so many excuses, which is why I want to talk to somebody that is still a believer, like maybe still a Christian, still a Muslim, whatever, but that used to be a creationist, who used to defend creationist apologetics, because all of the lies and nonsense that have come into, especially to defend this story, what you were talking about, the thousands of species that we have, and that's not even including fossil species, because there are more genera in the fossil record than there are alive today. And what we have alive today represents only about 1% of all that has ever lived. So,
and when they say what is the kind, what the hell is a kind, anyways?
they will not answer that question. They'll come up with idiotic excuses that it's two things that are so similar that even a 5-year-old could tell you that they're related. Well, I recently posted a picture of my parrot eating a piece of chicken, and people freaked out. They said that was cannibalism. As if a parrot and a chicken are the same species, right? Well, so here's somebody well more than 5 years old. If they think that a parrot and a chicken are the same species, well, then that means that ducks and geese and eagles and owls, those are all the same species too, because they're birds.
That's the bird kind, Aaron.
Oh yeah, except the Bible refutes that by saying that the Bible says that God made all kinds of birds.
So fish are cannibals as well.
Yeah, well, so there was a movie that talked about that. Lilo and Stitch. The little girl says that she can't give her fish a tuna sandwich because that's fish, and that would be an abomination to have a fish eat a fish. So they have no idea what a kind is, and they'll push the goalposts everywhere. That's what the phylogeny challenge is all about, is trying to get people to understand the breadth of biodiversity and where do you draw that line. Creationists will accept that species evolve. They accept speciation. They say that they reject macroevolution, which literal speciation is macroevolution, but they have no idea what microevolution or macroevolution even are. Either one. I'm gonna make a video about that soon too, because creationists always say that they accept microevolution, but then you talk to them for 2 minutes and you realize they don't accept microevolution, but they do accept speciation, which means that they accept macroevolution. So they got their shit completely backwards and have no idea. The point is, they will lie in order to defend the belief. That's what apologetics is. And I want to know from somebody who still believes, how do you justify what you guys were talking about before, that it doesn't matter how you get into the house, where you go through the back door or whatever, that it's okay to lie as long as you're lying for God? I don't understand that logic. And many Christians that I've argued with have come up with the argument with, what's wrong with lying?
I actually apologize, for for everybody, like I've actually done that before, where I had lied and tried to manipulate people into the religion, where I wasn't an extreme sort of apologist or anything like that, but I had tried to convert people to the belief.
That's okay. Jesus forgives you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Surah 14.
I see Diana has just joined us. Welcome, Diana.
Yay! Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
How are you?
Hi. Yes, we are kind of time shifted today.
All right, so what is your first note there?
My first note is, I'm going to say, please read your notes. Just wait a little bit. May Allah guide you to the ultimate truth regarding those letters.
Alif Lam Ra.
Please read your notes. Now, please read what you said there.
Okay, so let me get. Oh, it's on the wrong part of the page again. My apologies. Okay, so Alif Lam Ra, and so you want me to read my notes. Several sources, every one I have ever yet seen, says that no one knows why some surahs begin with Arabic letters, but I have developed a hypothesis. I remember that the order in which each chapter is commonly published is mostly according to how long it is, with the longest surahs coming first, but that they were allegedly composed in a different sequence, the order of revelations. That doesn't really work either, as some of the earlier works seem to refer to later ones. So my hypothesis is that whoever was first trying to compile these began each one with a set of initials to help categorize them. To test that, I found that each of the other surahs appear in the order of revelations. I found that each of the other surahs to appear in order of revelations are as follows. 51 is Surah 10, 52 is Surah 11, 53 is Surah 12, 54 is Surah 15, and then it jumps out of sequence for 72 going to Surah 14. These are the ones that all begin with Alif Lam Ra. And the sequence where the orders of revelation and chronology both match imply that I may be onto something. And the two obvious exceptions are that Surah 13 does not begin with Alif Lam Ra. Instead, it begins with Alif Lam Mim Ra, inserting one more letter into notation. So perhaps someone else who came along later and didn't understand the earlier editor's notation decided for his own reasons that Surah 13 should be printed in the 96th position of all chapters. And I have no idea why Surah 14 should be in the 72nd slot, but it seems that mistakes were made in the compilation of this book.
Let me add a bit of explanation on this code. There are 29 codes in the Quran, started with different letters. Now, there's three questions. Obviously, no one so far absolutely sure. It's all guesswork, and absolute guesswork. The best they have come up with, these letters are from the Arabic language, and they should look to you as a challenge. I am talking your language, and those letters are part of it. That is the most acceptable one so far. The two questions are that Muhammad has never explained anything about this. We have no hadith, we have no communication, we have nothing. The second question, the Sahaba or the companion, none of them, or come to thousands of them, none of them asked Muhammad, what do they mean? So we do have a big problem here.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect the people around Muhammad to ask him what these letters are, and he should have answered them if they did ask him. But there is no mention of these letters being any kind of noticed, right? By anyone.
Why there's no mention?
I have
because
some good theories about it.
Here's
I can tell you why there's no mention, and I can tell you what do they mean as well.
Okay.
All right. Well, by the way, I mean, I've put two explanations when anybody could translate, because the Quran is open to your understanding, and the more you understand of it, the more miracle you appear. Alif Lam Mim, the letter Alif Lam is the first two letters of Allah, and Mim is the first letter of Muhammad. So some of those verses start with Alif Lam Mim, and what best could you come up with, could you start with, apart from the two names of the most sacred, Allah and Muhammad? So that's one of the meaning, if you wish.
Okay.
It's all the guesswork, just to make things more confusing.
Yeah, it is super. Where I mean, the guesswork around these ambiguous letters has been so all over the place that, sure. Probably your theory is as good as the others.
This is the clear book, man.
It definitely is. Right. So my next note is 1404, unless somebody has something before that.
1404, right.
Yeah, we have never sent a messenger who did not use his own people's language to make things clear for them. But still God leaves whoever he will to stray and guides whoever he will. He is the Almighty, the All-Wise.
Well, my take on this is the Quran is obviously wrong here. Jesus spoke English. No wonder no one understood him at the time, since the language was not invented until much later. Also, Muhammad spoke Arabic, a language in its infancy at his time and only solidified as the Quran was being written down.
Were you being serious that Jesus spoke English?
Of course.
Jesus English. Jesus English.
And he was white with blonde hair too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had a Texas governor many years ago who said that if English is good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for Texas students, because they didn't want to teach Spanish or Chinese in public schools. And this is a governor who really believed that Jesus spoke English. Of course, he did not. As you pointed out, English didn't exist yet. Jesus spoke Aramaic, or would have spoken if he were real.
I thought Hebrew. I thought he spoke Hebrew.
Aramaic, as I understand it, is a subset or a derivation.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, understand.
Yeah, I know he didn't speak English, but I figured a snarky comment here would be.
I had to clarify because I've run into people who do believe that.
Well, now they are being justified. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that every people who got a prophet would be speaking their language. What about all the people who don't speak Arabic and it's not their language? Why can't you just leave them alone then? Clearly, Muhammad was not sent for them.
And they are 94.4% of the world population do not speak Arabic, by the way. So
right, why can't you just leave them alone?
Yeah, correct. Now, going back to this verse 4, there's a hell of a conflict in it, because what it says, of course, we have sent for every nation, we sent a prophet or a messenger to speak in their language, irrespective of that. But God, who is the one who Allah leads astray whom he will. So what's the point? Whether you send somebody, whether he speaks their language or not their language, you have concluded that at the end of the day, you lead whoever you wish astray, and you make whoever you wish straight. That's the same verse. That's what it says. Very clear.
There is no point. Now, the other kind of point of contention here. Sorry about just a second. Moses went to Egypt, to free his people, but Egyptians didn't speak Moses' language because they had their own.
Yeah, but Moses already spoke their language, because in a trope that's been repeated in many different stories, he was raised by them and then went away and then came back with the familiarity of having been raised with the king.
Right. So multilingual prophet we're talking about here?
Yeah, everybody had to be multilingual back then.
All right.
Okay.
I haven't been there. I don't know. I wasn't there.
I wanted to see how Muhammad spoke English.
You will be surprised, sir.
No, see, my the point I was trying to make here was that within this contradiction, there are apologists who claim, they say that the Quran cannot have conflicts like this. It just I cannot even word this correctly because the contradictions are there, but they say there's no contradictions in it.
Let me add one more thing to this. I've started the interpretation of Arawunji, that's my surname, sir, which is the first version Arabic, will appear on Monday, Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Fatiha. The very, very purpose of all the translator, who are 43 of them, 23 are non-Arab. The only purpose is to make the holy, any verse, no matter what it is, no matter how conflicted it is, no matter how ridiculous it is, they have to make it holy and divine. That's their purpose to start with. So I'm not surprised. And they go to extreme of batching up, to fiddle with the word, to acrobatically explanation. Eventually, it has to end up being holy and divine. So once you understand that, you don't get surprised. Yeah.
Okay. Number 6 is my next note, and it's kind of like a significant one.
All right, so 6. And Moses said to his people, remember God's blessing on you when he saved you from Pharaoh's people, who were inflicting terrible suffering on you, slaughtering your sons and sparing only your women. That was a severe test from your Lord.
This verse should be abrogated right out of the book.
Right.
It's bullshit, and I'll tell you why it is bullshit. It sounds like a serious contradiction with previous mentions regarding the treatment of Moses' people in Egypt specifically. Remember when they left the nice gardens and houses and followed Moses?
Yep.
Stark contrast with those verses? Indeed it is. Of course not in the abrogations list, but should be for sure. This verse is in stark contradiction of the other verses describing how the people of Moses were treated while they were in Egypt. They had nice gardens, they had nice houses. They lived their life the way they lived their life. They were fine. They weren't being tortured. Nobody was eating their children. Nobody was raping their women. Nobody was doing anything. In fact, the Pharaoh didn't want them to go because he kind of liked them.
Yeah. But what is the question, Aaron, by the way? What was the query about this verse?
The verse basically claims that look at Moses and his people, how he saved them from Pharaoh, who were torturing them, slaughtering their sons, and raping their women.
We understand this is a story that Muhammad came up with because he looked at so many
but he comes up with it after.
Bogey, let him speak.
I'm sorry. Yes, okay.
What I'm trying to say, I mean, I'm not that conversed with the Bible. I know a little bit about it, but maybe Aaron had a touch. There are similar stories. Muhammad always picked up so many things that he will appear at the end to be a real good man, because that is what Moses did. That's what Pharaoh did. But this is a story he picked up, so irrespective. So I mean, there's no proof whatsoever whether those two or not. Irrespective, he just bring them over to appear he's such a good man. Go ahead.
And with every telling, the story changes, just a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, correct. He twisted it in a nice way to eventually appear all his colleagues of prophets and messengers were good, but he was the best.
So they were all sitting at the table and going like, "Oh, so is your story better than my story? Let me tell you my story better than your story." Something like that.
Exactly,
yeah.
But he has to bring your story first and then overlook, and then he tells his as the best ever been said. He's the seal of the prophet. He is the one who's been given the concession at the end of the day. He is the one who has brought the right book. There's so many things that Muhammad appeared to be absolutely the best and the final. That's what the Quran says.
Also, the verse is talking about how how Pharaoh was killing the male children, right? But wasn't that the reason why I mean, initially the reason why Pharaoh started killing the children was because God showed Pharaoh a dream where someone from the Israelis will come and dethrone him. So isn't God the one who started the chain of events that would lead to the deaths of the children?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
But
at the end of the
that's the Passover story, and yeah, but that's a different story altogether.
Agreed.
That's a completely different story, and the two timelines are like from different universes.
we have a question from G Skeptic. Aaron?
We do. All right. G Skeptic, weren't the Jews enslaved in Egypt in the Quran?
Sometimes they were.
Sometimes they were free.
Other times they had nice gardens and beautiful houses and castles, and they lived happily there.
Is there any consensus?
There isn't. There isn't. There literally isn't.
Okay.
It's like in one verse they are having a nice life, and Moses literally rips them out of it and drives them and gets them lost in the desert for 40 years. And in the other version, they had a nice life, and until Moses started kicking shit around the Pharaoh, there were no problems at all. But then Allah decided to kill the firstborn to punish Pharaoh, and they had to put up the signs over their houses to protect their children from getting killed by Allah, by the way, because that's the killing there. But that's a killing because Allah is killing them to punish Pharaoh for not softening his heart. So if you are going to put the blame on somebody, this is Allah doing the torture and not Pharaoh. Pharaoh was not harming these people.
In
there is no mention of the raping anywhere except here.
Yeah.
So that was the start of the 7 plagues, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Sorry, in the Quran, there's 2 status for the Israelite or the Jewish people. When they're obeying God, obeying Moses, were good, God has blessed them with so many things. One of them, a special food called man as-salwa. But when they have broke the Sabbath and did few things, then they were punished. So that's the status of the Jewish people or the Bani Israel in the Quran.
Is that why we have Saturdays off?
You need to ask them. That's no longer valid, by the way. It's Friday now.
Anyways, 1422 is my next note.
1422.
All right.
Okay.
So when everything has been decided, Satan will say, God gave you a true promise. I too made promises, but they were false ones. I had no power over you except to call you, and you responded to my call. So do not blame me, blame yourselves. I cannot help you, nor can you help me. I reject the way you associated me with God before. A bitter torment awaits such wrongdoers.
I want you to cross-reference this with the biblical concept of you lead yourself astray and the devil is not going to be on your side on the afterlife.
Right.
Because this is exactly the same construct you find from biblical preachers.
Yeah.
This is literally word for word what a biblical apologist would tell you.
I like the way he says, I reject the way you associated me with God before. I like the fact that Satan doesn't want to have anything to do with God. I'm with you, Satan.
It's a childish scenario. It's a kiddie scenario, no more, no less. Anybody could see that. It's a childish scenario, to be honest. It's not worth even explaining anymore. Self-explanatory. It's a very kiddie scenario, no more than that.
If you read the Quran for what it is, by the end of it, Shaitan will be your hero.
Yeah, I saw some comments about that in the chat, where people were talking about how Satan had been so wronged in the Bible, how Satan was the only one. the serpent as Satan, which of course the serpent wasn't supposed to be Satan, but Christians believe that he was. He wasn't the one that lied. God lied. Everybody lied except the serpent in that story. And that the worst thing that the devil ever did was on a bet with God, where God told Satan to kill these people, in the story of Job. And that beyond that, the worst thing that Satan ever did was try to reason with Jesus. And trying to reason against faith is apparently the most evil thing you can do.
Absolutely.
Right.
You will go to hell for that.
This verse should actually, if we rephrase this verse, because God has agreed to Satan to go down and lure people till the doomsday. He agreed to that. So those people, instead of saying, well, I've got nothing to do with you, they should say, talk to God. He allowed me to come down and really deceive you and get you to hear. So talk to God.
No,
He's the
God
one responsible. Okay,
Allah literally hired him to do that job.
Yeah, correct. So
He
that's
literally
what
said, Satan, this is what you're going to do. And Satan said, yes, my Lord.
And I think that's what Satan would answer. Well, it's not me, him. Talk to Allah. He is the one who made me do it. That's what should be the answer. All right?
Hey, Satan, I have a problem with you. Can I speak to your manager, please?
We have another super chat from Roger H, $5. He asks if I put creamer in my coffee. I rarely drink coffee, but when I do, it's black.
And I don't drink coffee at all. It's only Pepsi for me.
Yeah, I have my one coffee a day. That's it.
Okay, next up.
All right, next up is 32.
Right.
33 actually, sorry.
All right. He has made the sun and the moon useful to you, steady on their paths. He has made the night and day useful to you, and given you some of everything you asked him for. If you tried to count God's favors, you could never calculate them. Man is truly unjust and ungrateful.
Yeah.
The sun is not on a path.
Yes, so he made the sun and the moon, and he uses the word dabba, which is the burden-bearing animal. Okay, so we can make use of the sun and the moon like they were a burden-bearing animal, aka we just use them. And وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ, the day and the night. So we can work 24-hour shifts. That's okay. That's great. He kind of left out a whole lot of other celestial bodies that we could inhabit and be there. So shall we not be going to those places because they're not, being subjugated for us?
It's
But
funny
Bogey,
how...
back in the...
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Now, so I was saying is back in the day, they had no concept of other planets. They didn't know what other planets were. So, of course, it's not in the book.
Correct.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've actually met people in this century who believed that the Earth was not just the first thing in the universe, but that it is the biggest thing in the universe.
There you
And
go.
that,
There you go.
yeah, that the sun and the moon and all the planets are all roughly about the same size as each other.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, my grandmother understood that the Earth went around the sun and the sun didn't go around the Earth, or at least she said she did. But she had that I think it's a Copernican model of the concentric spheres, where all these planets are in different spheres around the Earth, so that everything orbits around the Earth. Because I had to explain to her that Jupiter was bigger than we are, and I told her that there was the red spot, that as a storm on Jupiter, that the storm is bigger than the Earth. And she said, well, I hope it doesn't reach out and get us.
Yeah.
That is totally rational.
The problem is this is from somebody who claims to have created the universe and everything in it.
Right.
Right. So when that entity has incomplete, erroneous, and downright wrong information about how the universe is, you have a huge problem. A huge problem.
No,
I
it
gotta
was much.
mention-
Yeah, go
Sorry?
ahead. Go
I
ahead,
gotta
go
mention
ahead.
super sticker from Woody for £1.49. Thank you very much. And a super chat. No, I already did that one. All right, go ahead.
No, so back in those times, it was much later that astronomy and stuff like that came into being, and then they found out that there's these wandering stars and all of that stuff. But when the time that the Quran was supposedly written, or before that, they had no clue that these planets revolved around us, or we revolved around the sun, or anything like that.
Yep. Yes, but the creator of the universe obviously needed to have a clue about that, right? So he could have alluded to it. He could have told them outright, hey, these things are orbiting each other because of something I will call gravity.
Like
Right?
many things that have been missed, these are all missed opportunities to say how valid the Quran is, like
Yeah.
have some sort of evidence for any of these things and we would believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A few years ago, you'll find preachers giving sermons saying that the Quran is a book of science. But now the same
Nope.
preachers say that the Quran is not a book of science, it's a book of science.
Oh, they're still
This
doing
is-
that, by the way.
They
They're
do,
still doing
yeah.
that. They're still doing
This
that.
is what is that the Indian televangelist
The medical
Zakir Naik?
Zakir Naik, yeah, he says this a lot.
Hmm. Oh, you have hundreds of them, sir. Zaghlul al-Najjar and Nabulsi. You have so many of them, and they copy from each other. By the way, they copy
Yeah.
from each other. Yeah.
No,
However,
I hate Zakir Naik with a vengeance.
well, the problem with Zakir Naik, he dictate to you. If you try to debate or talk to the guy, he make you ask one question. He's got the answer, and that's all you talk about. And once you try to reverse and ask him or clarify or whatever, that's it, full stop, period. And then the applause goes, and everybody really think this guy made such a hell of a refute or a rebut. So that's his problem, and people believe in him because unfortunately he's got thousands and millions. They do believe in him, and that's the end of the story. Whatever he says it right. And
When I was-
unfortunately,
he literally tries to bully his answer on you.
sure.
When I went
Yes.
to India, there were some people there that were trying to plan some things for the trip, and they were asking if I would be willing to debate Zakir Naik, and I'm like, oh yes, please.
But he has never accepted to debate anybody apart from somebody called William at one time, whether the Bible is the word of God. That is 15, 20 years ago. He would never, ever accept to debate anybody. And that's how weak he is. When he knew very well he doesn't have ground.
You can
Yep.
Google Zakir Naik and camel urine, and
Hmm.
you'll find a video of him saying that camel urine will cure dandruff and a bunch of other diseases.
Oh, we've heard that. We've heard so many of that, yeah.
Oh,
Just good lord, these people will never.
Back to verses 33, there is sorry, I've got an echo. Maybe is it
Yep.
me or someone else? I don't know.
Yeah,
The
that
verse,
one too.
yeah, verse 33. It's amazing that God has committed to us the moon, the sun, and the day and night, but He avoids totally mentioning how destructive is the hurricanes, the tsunami, the earthquake, and the rest of it. And those, it's got nothing to do with them. He only forced them or enforced them upon those who do not obey and believe in Him. So that's something which is the Quran always try to avoid. Well, they don't know
Like
much about
everything,
it. Yeah.
like everything else in the book.
Yes. Correct.
37, please. 1437.
all right, our Lord, I have established some of my offspring in an uncultivated valley close to your sacred house, Lord. So they're in a valley close to the house? Okay. So that they may keep up the prayer, make people's hearts turn to them, and provide them with produce so that they may be thankful. So people live in a valley close to God's house. So it's a physical house. And they have to have produce because they still have to eat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
God's
physical
house
house is the Kaaba,
is
by the way.
Kaaba. Yeah.
Yes. But this is a very famous verse in the Quran. It's Rabbi inni askantu min durriyatin biwadin ghayri dhi zar'in. Right? So this is a valley that has no produce. There's no crops in it. There is no plants in it. It's a barren valley. And this is the description of Mecca, apparently. So here goes the Quran, and it says, well, Hagar and and Ishmael are going to live here, and they don't have anything to eat. And I'm going to put them next to your holy house, the Kaaba, right? So that they can pray and whatever else and yada, yada, yada. The point is, and then later on, the Quran says we've got peaches, we've got olives, we've got grapes, we've got dates, we've got all those plants. And here says, no, it's a wadi ghayri dhi zar'in. So it contradicted itself, unfortunately. And this verse is not in the abrogation list.
Hold on. So when Abraham placed Hajar and Ishmael at the valley, the Kaaba wasn't there already.
Well,
It
he
was
built
just
it
an empty
like
valley.
he built it in a second,
Well,
right? Because
Technically, it is the spot of the Kaaba because they say that angels built it first. I mean, no, Adam built it first, and then it got destroyed in Noah's flood, and then
Yeah.
Abraham built it again.
Let
Correct.
me get my face palm mitts, please.
Yeah. It doesn't
So,
matter.
excuse
One
me,
can
excuse
argue.
me. Muslims believe that Adam built the Kaaba.
yes,
Yep.
Some of them,
Yeah.
not all of them, some of them.
They
A lot of
believe
them.
that the spot
Very few.
in the Kaaba is on is where Adam first prostrated to God on earth. So that's what makes it so special. And there is an imaginary Kaaba on top of the Kaaba in space, where angels go and do the same thing humans do on earth.
Yeah, but that's a heavenly Kaaba.
Yeah.
It's got it does not resemble the one, but this is only for the angels, nothing to do with us, by the way.
I wonder
Speaking
if
of Kaaba, Aaron, I don't know whether you've seen pictures of the Kaaba where you've seen that half circle right next to the Kaaba.
It's a
don't remember
man-made.
that now.
It's a man-made belief. Yeah, it's a man-made.
Yes. So they say that if you pray inside there, you are praying. It's the same equivalent to praying inside the Kaaba, which is the same as equivalent to praying in heaven itself.
Possibly. There is
which I have.
There's 700,000 hadiths. That is 97.3 of them were happen to be just man-made. One of them is this hadith. So Muslims do believe a lot of things, but that's an absolute, as far as we're concerned, has got no ground whatsoever.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons I try not to use hadith at all, because they don't bring anything of value. If we're going to talk about what the Quran says and what the Quran doesn't say, that's what Islam is. The hadith is just there to clutter the waters. It literally has no value in the argument.
So
Agreed.
according to that, my prayer that was done inside the Kaaba has no merit at all then, huh?
No, you just paid extra for it. That's all.
Let's say if it has merit.
Shit.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Let's say it has a merit. How does God benefit out of this? Could you tell me?
I have no clue. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it, because nobody would benefit out of that. Maybe you.
To the point, right? Since Allah sees your intentions, whether you like it or not, what does it matter where you prayed or how you prostrated? It doesn't matter. If you wanted his face, you would get his face, even in the darkest of holes, in the deepest of grounds. You can think of him and he will hear you and he will get your intention.
And he'll be with you.
They shouldn't be a place that you specially go and pray at, and it would be special.
No, but then here's my point.
This is bullshit by Islamic theology itself.
Yeah, but then here's my point, right? because I had prayed inside the Kaaba, and very few people get to do this.
I
You know,
believe you. It's not a big place.
Because you only get like to pray inside the Kaaba nowadays by invitation from the king of Saudi Arabia, right? And so
Yes.
people say that if you had been able to pray inside the Kaaba, you are blessed to be able to do that.
Understand that? Yeah. What's the next step?
So the next step, the point I'm trying to make here is that now then when I say that I no longer believe, they go like, you what? They go into a rage, a fit, because hey, you prayed there. Why do you not believe anymore? You should be believing even more. That is their argument.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So we have another super chat. Braxton gave us, I think, Swedish 59 kroner. Says, signs are worthless anyway because God decides who believes and who does not, which is a perfectly valid point.
I agree.
And somebody else pointed out, Left Islam for Good, once again, thank you for these comments, said that some Muslims believe Kaaba was destroyed in the flood of Noah.
We don't know. It was. They said it was destroyed 3 times, by the way, after Noah.
Left Islam for Good. You should be on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me your email address, and we'll get you in there.
Okay.
And then somebody else made a chat comment that somebody included in the question. Somebody's offering me their stimulus check if I debate some troll who doesn't deserve any attention. Well, upon receipt of a $1,400 check from you, Richard Luongo, then I will make such arrangements, and I will debate a troll who doesn't deserve any attention. But I'm going to receive your $1,400 check first. All right, that's enough of that.
Fair deal.
I'm not going to haggle over that, but it is an offer that is hard to refuse.
Yeah.
Trust you would buy us a drink, Aaron. Right.
Okay, we discussed 37. My next note is 47, unless somebody has something.
So do not think, prophet, that God will break his promise to his messengers. He is mighty and capable of retribution.
Yeah, he is Dhu Intiqam. He is the vengeful. He has lots of venge. Yes.
Smite me, O mighty smiter.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got all the smiters. Yeah, this is what it says. Like, the translation almost got it right, but he uses the word vengeful. He is the one who has the vengefulness.
I've asked Muslims, what does God benefit? Does he feel happy? Does he feel good? Does he when he revenge, and he's done so many? What does it make him feel? It's something like we human do something, revenge, maybe take credit for it, or feel happy, or feel justice done. But as God is concerned, what does he do it for? Why does he do it? And
I think that's
God feels very human, if anything.
No, I think that's the way he sustains himself, by being
Revenge.
vengeful.
I'm sure he could find a better way. God, all knowing, all powerful.
So
I think that's the way his species, consumes energy.
Well, that's a question still remain to be answered.
Are you postulating that if we stop praying to Allah, he will just die of starvation?
Exactly.
Wow.
No, that's how gods are, Yeah, they don't have any worshippers. They fade into nothing. Anybody watch American Gods?
Oh, yeah, it's a good series.
I love that show.
They're very dependent, Aaron. They are very
Is it a little strange for an atheist that my favorite show is American Gods?
No, it's perfectly rational, Aaron.
Yeah. Cinematography is awesome. It's beautifully presented.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Right.
Are we done?
I'm out.
All right. So I would like to see everybody again, and I'm sorry that we didn't get Mubarak this time. I miss having Mubarak on, so let's see if we can get him back. Now that will be once again it'll still be 5 p.m. UTC. They're going to be doing their time change so that they'll be in sync with us. So it'll again be noon Eastern time, 2 weeks from today. And oh, funny, I forgot to make a note of what the next one. It's a single surah, but it's a long one. So for next time. Wish I could remember what it was. I didn't make a note of it.
So it'll be 28th, Aaron, would it? 28th of March?
28th of March, yes.
Okay, and you let us know what the surah is going to be, right?
Yes, I will post as I usually do, but I didn't this time. I will post notice a few days in advance so that everybody has time to read the blog post and be familiar with what we're going to be talking about, and so on. And Left Islam for Good, between now and then, get us an email address so we can be on.
So can I add something from the very last line of verse 51?
Sure.
I just wanna amend this a little bit because Aaron, this is your show, so I'm gonna say He is the only God, and so that those who have minds may take heed.
Mhm.
That's good way to end the show, I think.
And Aaron, please try to spare some time and have a quick look at that book.
Okay, yeah, send me a message and remind me, because I mean, time is like a really huge issue for me right now.
I understand that. I appreciate it. Yeah, sure.
Oh, we got a nice question from Son of Iblis.
Okay. Just like the Kaaba, if a structure was repaired in time and time again to a point where there's little to no original parts, is it still the holy structure that Adam or Abraham built? Yeah, it's an amusing question. I understand that there's a hatchet that was supposed to have belonged to like George Washington or something, and the handle was replaced because it rotted out, and then at some point they replaced the axe head as well, so there's no part of the original axe. What's the point?
The current dimensions of the Kaaba itself are supposedly wrong as well. Like right now it's a cube, but Muhammad said it used to be a rectangle.
There is a Greek philosophical construct about this. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's about a ship that leaves harbor and then gets replaced, plank by plank, and then returns to the harbor 20 years later with every plank having been replaced. Is it still the same ship?
You're recounting the last episode of WandaVision.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's close it out. Thank you everybody for being on. Looking forward to it in a couple weeks' time.